Hello and welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host Neil Magnuson, and this is a show where we talk about THC. And I know you think that's the active ingredient for euphoria in cannabis, but in this case it's truth, hope, and change. Three very important things in the world that we're living in, especially when you're talking about the cannabinoid that causes the euphoria on cannabis. On the show today we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca join us for the 420 session. Jerry Martin will be here for the Martin Medical Moment a couple days before the final stage of his trial that's been going on, or his constitutional challenge that's been going on. And we'll visit the Healing Wave CSPRV for an update on what's going on there. It's been over a year now since we applied to the federal government to give us permission to save people's lives. We just had an election in Canada. We ended up in pretty much exactly the same place as we were before. $610 million were spent to have people cast their vote. And I know, and now we've got the same government in power, the same minority situation, and that is pretty much the way I predicted it would be. Trudeau liked to talk about calling an election so that he could get a majority, so that he could have a real mandate to lead us in the direction that he wants to lead us in. And in my opinion, that was nothing but a smokescreen. He knew all along there's not a chance he was going to get a majority government with all the scandals that have been going on, and people are upset with him about lots of different things. Trudeau called an election because him and his advisors could see that if they waited another year, they would not be able to retain power in Canada. They went now so that they could do that, and they knew they weren't getting a majority. And probably it's best for Canada that we don't have a majority, and probably it's best for Canada that we don't have that other party that just might have taken this election, because they have a pretty bad history of how they handle especially the cannabis file, but lots of other things as well. With the cannabis file, we're probably in the best shape we could be after the election with respect to getting our license. It's been over a year since we applied to Health Canada under an emergency basis, by the way, so that we could get licenses to operate a low barrier access community cannabis shop, which we had been doing without a license for about 5 months before we were finally evicted, because Health Canada did not come through with a temporary exemption in time to keep us from being evicted. And we right away bought an RV. And we've been providing the same service 6 days a week, 8 hours a day from the RV parked right in front of the store, which we're still paying rent on while we wait to see if we're going to get our licenses approved. We'll see. So I see Dana Larson has got himself a new gig. I love Dana, and I love all the work that he's done over the years. He's got a mushroom dispensary at this point, a coca cafe going on, I guess is what that is. Both. And Dana is now writing for Cracked Magazine. And you should really check that out, because he's got 3 very interesting articles in there for this latest edition. One of them is on pot potency. And he went back and he looked at all the different reports about cannabis over the years, because, we're constantly being told that the cannabis these days is so much more potent than the cannabis in the past, and that it really needs to be seriously regulated because of, just how strong it is. So he went back and had a look. And he had a look at what they were saying back in the 90s. Well, what they were saying back in the 90s is that, well, weed was just so much more potent than it had been before. And that, like a whole bunch of times more potent, 7 times more potent than it was before. So we went back and looked in the 60s. Well, turns out in the 60s they considered it to be much more potent than what had been going on prior to that. So we went back and looked even farther back. And, well, I mean, you look at the use of cannabis and the results of cannabis and the stories about cannabis and the reports and what have you. Well, back in the 30s, I mean, it was reefer madness. Cannabis was so strong, it would make you a complete raving lunatic. And then it goes on to the hippies and the artistic movements in the 60s, where obviously cannabis was such a huge impact on society with all the creativity that was going on with people that were using cannabis. And anyway, Dana determined that based on the math from all of these different reports, announcements from the government that have been going on since way back in the day, it would be 67,200 times more potent today than the weed back in the 20s. Well, that's not really true. It's not really true at all. But I mean, I remember back in the 70s when the local weed, what we called homegrown that you could buy, you could get fairly cheap. And there was no buds in it. It wasn't buds, it was just cannabis leaves. I don't know what was happening to the buds. I guess they were all full of seeds, because at that time, in the 70s, nobody really understood sensimelia yet. growing without seeds, you know, when you take the males away so the females don't get fertilized and then they don't produce seeds, and then it's they just continue to produce all of those wonderful things that they produce in the form of cannabinoids and especially THC to try to attract that pollen that they're looking for. So then we got a little more potent as far as that went, but not really, because back in the 70s we had imports. There wasn't a lot of locally grown indoor good quality cannabis, but there was a lot of imports from Jamaica, Cambodia, Colombia, on and on. The Thai stick was incredible. The Cambodian was so sticky. All these other weeds that we got from elsewhere around the world, the Maui Wowie, the Kona Gold, the Acapulco Gold, man, these weeds were absolutely fantastic. I don't know if even today's top indoor strains, you know, are more potent than what we had back those. I mean, I remember that Kona Gold was just something else. You know, the Thai stick especially, although there's some rumors that maybe some Thai stick might have had some opium sprinkled on it, but I don't know that I had any of that. I think that what I had was just really, really strong buds with lots of crystals stuck on the end of a stick, and that's what we were smoking. So yeah, the potency of weed has not gotten considerably stronger than it used to. I mean, all you have to do is consider hashish for one thing. I mean, the extracts that were being made way back in the day in Afghanistan and all these other places was just incredible. The black Afghani hash, wow, a couple of little tiny little hot knife tokes, and you know, a couple hours would go by before you even realized where you were. Maybe that had some opium sprayed on it, I don't know. But you know, the weed was very, very potent and always has been since, I'm sure, the beginning of time. It just is what it is. That's what this plant is all about. It has all these cannabinoids and it uses it for all these different things to adapt to its environment. And we found as humans a long time ago, probably when humans first discovered fire and how to make fire and how to continue to find the things that would cause fire. Well, dried cannabis flowers would probably be one of the very best to start a fire with because of the oils that would ignite the fire. We find that as well with cannabis too. So the potency of cannabis has been right up there if you knew where to get it, if you knew where to get the good stuff since the beginning. All of this stuff about the potency of cannabis is so much stronger than it used to be are just lies designed to try to keep it prohibited. That's all. They just needed to do whatever they could to keep it prohibited because it is a medicine that would definitely interfere with the bottom line pharmaceutical profits because of their synthetic pills that don't do as well for you as cannabis does and come with a whole bunch of side effects. They were certainly scared of people understanding that this is a plant that grows easily anywhere, even indoors, and you can produce your own herbs that will help you with just about everything that the pharmaceutical company would like to charge you money for. So they were a huge part of why cannabis was deemed to be so much more potent and needed to be restricted and all of the rest of that. But seriously though, cannabis is potent, has always been potent, especially if you get into the concentrates, the hashes, and now the modern day concentrates that we have, quite potent. Still, not so potent as to be able to kill you, like just about every other medication on the planet, just about every other medicinal herb that grows on the planet, you can eat enough or consume enough to die. And cannabis is a wonderful plant that we have a very long symbiotic relationship with, and it does not kill cannabis-using people. It does not do that at all. In fact, cannabis does not kill cannabis-consuming dogs either. Dana Larson, again, with another article for Cracked Magazine, talks about how Park Davis, back in the 1800s, wanted to test the potency of cannabis and whether or not it was something that needed to be concerned, or, you know, they wanted to know about it. And for some reason, they decided to use dogs for that. I'm not sure why. I think they could have fairly easily found some human guinea pigs to try that out for them. But they picked dogs. They tried to pick dogs that would be particularly more susceptible to some of the potential harms of cannabis because they really wanted to know. They didn't want tough dogs. They wanted weak dogs. So they got weak dogs. They tried giving them all kinds of cannabis in all kinds of different forms, way more than what you should. And the dogs would pass out. They would give them weed until they would pass out. Sometimes they would pee themselves. There was other things like that went on. But you know what? They never managed to kill a dog. We got veterinarians spouting out on the media here these days saying, oh, watch out for letting your dog get into your cannabis because it can kill them. They're just little. No, it can't kill them. Probably for the same reason as it can't kill humans. It doesn't matter how tiny and frail a human you are, and it doesn't matter how much potent cannabis you consume. It won't kill you. And that's probably the same for all the vertebrates on the planet, because all the vertebrates on the planet have an endocannabinoid system. A whole system, one of about 13 systems that operate our bodies and animal bodies, is completely dedicated to cannabinoids, except it doesn't make cannabinoids, it makes the exact same thing as cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are found in nature, they're found on plants, they're especially found on the cannabis plant, that's the plant that has more than any, but they're found on other fruits and vegetables as well, they're on peppers, they're on lots of different things. And so, anyway, cannabis can't kill humans, cannabis can't kill dogs, cannabis is a supplement to our endocannabinoid system, cannabis is wonderful. But there's people that have tried to fake cannabis. And here again, another good article by Dana Larson for Crack Magazine in this latest episode talking about fake cannabis. You might remember if you were looking at High Times magazines back in the day, you wouldn't have found them in cannabis culture magazines. They rejected those articles, or advertisements rather. But the advertisements going on in High Times magazine for all sorts of synthetic types of cannabis. And now today this is a problem. Synthetic cannabis is a problem. It can kill you. It is problematic. It can cause psychosis. It's not a good thing. But there's another article about that in there as well. So good on Dana for all of that. We've been proving this here too. And when I say we, I mean the Cannabis Substitution Program. We have been demonstrating the safety and effectiveness of cannabis for over 4.5 years. It all started here in Vancouver when the city of Vancouver decided that they were going to license dispensaries. This is pre-legalization. There was 150 to 180 illegal, unlicensed dispensaries operating in Vancouver. Vancouver wanted a piece of that action. They couldn't close them down. They'd been trying to do that, but they'd just open up the next day. And so they came up with a plan that they would regulate dispensaries. Part of those regulations was removing a whole bunch of the different services that dispensaries were offering. 7 different revenue streams were taken away from dispensaries, including the sale of edibles. Well, right at that same time in Vancouver, we were experiencing, we were about a year into this epidemic, not a pandemic, not about a virus, but about something else, an epidemic of overdose deaths due to what had become a poison drug supply for a street supply of opioids, meth, cocaine, and other street drugs like that were all being found tainted with fentanyl. And fentanyl, being about 100 times more powerful than heroin, doesn't take very much to kill a person. It shuts down your respiratory and your heart and you're gone. And so lots of people were dying from that. And what I had learned, in a partnership with David Malmo Levine, opening what we called the Herb School, the Vancouver School of Drug War History and Organic Cultivation, 1 block over from where we are here, just down from Main and Hastings. We opened that as a dispensary and as an activist center. And what we learned there, being right close to the big drug dealing center of North America at Main and Hastings, is that people that were addicted to opioids and other hard drugs could find relief with cannabis, especially edibles. That the edibles were strong enough to get them through withdrawal and then replace the use of those other hard drugs. So I had that experience under my belt. We opened the Herb School in 2004. It lasted for 3.5 years. But here we are now in 2016, and the city's deciding to take away edibles from dispensary shelves, where the edibles are what will get people and what can get people off of these opioids. So I went to City Hall. First I went to VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, an advocacy group for people that are oppressed by drug wars and people that are struggling with addiction and the use of these other substances. I got full unanimous approval from them to go to City Hall and ask for their support in a program that would provide cannabis high-dose edibles for free, make it as easy as possible to get it to the people that need it, especially those people struggling with homelessness and poverty down on the downtown east side. And so that's what we did. And we started this program 4.5 years ago. Since then, we've given out well over 20 million milligrams of high-dose edibles to hundreds, if not thousands of people. Our project developed into a program where we now have close to 300 people that get 420 milligrams of high-dose edibles of their choice every 4 days for free. And so that's what we've been doing. And we've proven over this time that cannabis doesn't, not only does it not kill anybody, but it really doesn't do anything but help people. I mean, you can eat too much and have an uncomfortable experience with that, and many people do, but they don't usually do that more than once or twice because it's not fun to overdose as far as eating too much cannabis goes. It's not a very pleasant experience. So people self-regulate, and everybody's tolerance is different. Some people, they got what they need with 5 milligrams. Some people can use 1,000 milligrams, and they still could take some more. So it's not something that the government can regulate for you. It's not something the government can say you can only buy in these small amounts, you can't have large amounts, and you must take this amount. Nobody knows but you as an individual, once you find out for yourself what your levels are, what your tolerances are, what works for you, what your needs are, the more pain you're in, the more cannabinoids you're going to need to deal with that pain, that's for sure. So anyway, the government needs to back off on all of this. They need to go and worry about things that actually kill people. They need to find... Oh, there we go. 4:19. You have 1 minute to get them rolled up because at 4:20, that's our traditional time every day of partaking in the magical vapors. And that's what we're going to do. So in the meantime, that's kind of my rant for the day. The government lies through their teeth. They've been lying about potency. They don't need to over-regulate cannabis. They need minimal regulations on cannabis. People need to have easy access to cannabis. If people had easy access to cannabis, a storefront that they could walk into indiscriminately without having to show ID and get themselves some high-dose cannabis edibles, we'd have a lot less people having problems with these serious situations with our people dying from overdoses on these other hard drugs. So let's see what we can do about that. We'll talk about that a little more on the show. That brings us... Oh, not quite. I still got a couple more seconds. And we're not going to use them because it is 4:20 basically, and Glenn's anxious to get in here, and we all want to have a puff, and all this depressing talk about lying governments and the rest of it just make you want to have a puff, doesn't it?
Yeah, and wasting our money in a fucking election that we didn't really need to have, too, so that makes you want to puff, too.
Well, but maybe it was money well spent. Maybe if Trudeau had waited a year, and then the Conservatives got in, maybe that would be a bad thing for the cannabis community and other Canadians.
At least we're dealing with the same health minister, right?
I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
Happy 420, everybody.
Happy 420. Light them if you got them. If you don't got them, I don't know why.
I was going to do a dab before I spark that up. With my 2 hoots. Now.
Magical vapors.
Magical, yeah. You got it in a smoke form and in vapor form.
Can you imagine our distant forefathers that were just starting to walk on 2 feet and living in little family groups, understanding the power of fire, and eventually deciding that, brave members of their group could try to control it. When lightning struck, when there was a fire happening, they could grab some, they could maybe keep it going, they could save it. Then eventually they figured out how to get it lit, how to light it themselves.
Yeah.
That if you take a flint rock and you spark it and you spark it and you spark it and you spark those sparks into something really flammable, you can start a fire. And as I mentioned off the top of the show, one of the things that fire starters would have been very keen to find would have been dried cannabis buds because of the content of oil that would ignite quickly.
Yes, yeah.
So my submission is, my
I'm
opinion
go with
is...
Lightning brought fire.
Sure, lightning brought fire first.
Is it something fire?
They were familiar with fire.
Yes, okay.
Because of lightning.
Yeah.
But once they decided to try to control it and create it themselves, that's when I think they would have been down there really close to those sticky cannabis dried flower buds. They would have been sparking it up. It would have started to smolder. They would have been, waving at it, trying to get it to
going.
The smoke would be getting bigger and bigger, and that's what they're looking for. And then poof, they get a flame. But they inhaled those vapors.
And they felt better.
And I think that's where we discovered the power of cannabis, and that's my position on it. I have no idea. None of us were there.
Don't they say that the Egyptians had it? We've been finding it in some temples.
For sure. It goes. Yeah. It's in every culture. It goes back long. That's only 3,000 years. I'm talking 150,000 years.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm talking a
Apparently
real long time
really
ago.
old pipe out there that I've seen a picture of that's probably about 3,000 years old.
Yeah, 3,000 years is not old in the geological time scale of things, for sure.
If I was 3,000 old, I'd be old and geological.
Well, I mean, because of how nature works, You are a 4.5 billion year old life form.
Yes, my DNA is, yes.
There is an unbroken chain of procreation that has evolved you to where you're at. It goes back to the beginning when there was just microbes on this planet, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
You know,
I don't really want to get into the religious side of things. Aunt Barbie might be watching.
we could.
You know, we could anytime you want. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about religion at all. I just don't like hurting people's feelings. I don't like people tuning me out because they have a different idea on things. And if you have a different idea, you might be right, I might be wrong. That's what opinions are all about. In my short lifespan of investigating things, I think that God would not be what they are saying that He is. I don't think that He would have created an angel that became a devil. I don't think that there would be a hell involved. You know, I don't think that there would be natural disasters and things that happen to people that happen if we had an overseer of someone who cared about us. So that's just what I think.
I wrote something down just a couple of days ago, since you want to talk about that. We all have an aura. Our aura is not red, yellow, white, brown, black. Right?
I don't know.
Our aura, no, come on. You got that X-ray machine. You can look at your hands. The aura is like blue and white. It's like a blue flame. But we all have
so you're
an
saying
aura.
there's
we
friendly
all have
colors.
an aura. There's no colors to those auras, right?
Blue is a color?
This whole planet is full of auras, right? So it's part of that energy, right?
We only see an extremely small spectrum of the visible field. There's a whole bunch of auras and other things that we can't see with our human eyes.
Yes.
We're just not capable.
But there's no race to an aura.
There's some people that see auras around people.
Yep.
Maybe in the right circumstances, anybody can see an aura.
Empaths can feel your aura, may not see it, but can feel the aura.
That's what they say anyway.
Yeah, right.
People say they see auras. People have been drawing auras around things for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's because they're there.
Plants and animals have auras.
I believe
so. Then why don't we just join that energy instead of following a religion? We know that the aura is there. We know that this whole planet has 4 billion auras on it. That's got to be a big power.
4 billion? There's 7 billion
is
people.
7 billion? Oh,
and I think Cato's got to have an aura.
Yeah.
Where is Cato? Did he not come?
He got pissed off. He went upstairs.
He didn't even come up here.
No, he didn't even. No. He
was up there for a little bit.
Oh, did he? Okay.
I get caught up in talking to you people, and I don't notice what's going on around me lots of times. But what are you saying, Glenn? With the aura thing that we can, how does religion affect?
Well, I don't think we should follow a religion, because religion is like, we have so many different ones that we're having arguments about. We have terrorists about. But we all know that this planet is a big ball of friggin' energy, right? Everything, all plants, everything has an aura that's alive, right? So
what is that saying to you?
I don't know. We should just group together, like, as one planet instead of a whole bunch of different religions.
I kind of like my privacy sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just help out our fellow
I'm
man.
not really a big people person all the time, you know.
This God is better than that God. You know, just be one. Be one.
Well, that's
one, right?
Great if we could do
that one love thing.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could just say things and then it would be the case? Like, no more war, no more hate, no more poverty. I'd love to just be able to say things and not have
well,
them.
I don't think that would be possible, but we'd probably get rid of a lot of the terrorist activity if we got rid of religion, in my view. Right?
Well, but
because that's,
getting rid of religion, I mean, this is not, like I say, this is nice to be able to say it. It might be good if we could just do it.
Yeah.
But we live on a planet full of a whole bunch of very, very emotional human beings. Not too many of them are very smart. Lots of them have been hurt in very bad ways throughout their childhood and throughout adult life. In many ways, people are traumatized. So we got a bunch of traumatized, not very bright, emotional people running around, and they're going to cling to all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. There's going to be religion. There's going to be hate. There's going to be anger, because there's a lot of fear. Fear drives almost all of these things, right? The fear of death, the fear of somebody taking over your territory, the fear of somebody different than you in the way that they are, or their color, or whatever. Maybe getting involved with your daughter. People get really emotional about their daughters, not so much about their sons sometimes. But there's all these human factors that are involved here. This can't ever be an absolute utopia with nobody starving and nobody hating and nobody fearing. It can never be like that. It just can't. Whether it's designed to be that way, I don't know.
But
that is what's
here.
Say
if they take all the possessions of the Catholic Church and gave it to the world, there would be nobody hungry. Yeah, there would be nobody.
For how long?
I don't know.
And what about the people that are isolated that you can't get to? Or maybe
those
if that was our super
if
goal.
those countries had the money, they could build greenhouses and grow the food that they need in their
We
countries.
could do a lot better
Right?
as a
Yes.
human race
Yeah.
than we are about looking after the less fortunate,
Yes.
the hungry and the rest.
And
We could do a much better job, and I hope we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here to try to promote that, inspire people to do that, get governments to support that. I really hope we do. I don't know. I'm an optimist, but I'm a realist, and so therefore I can't always be optimistic about things because realistically, and especially with the way the world is going right now, I'm not sure that we're going to be getting better instead of worse. So of course we are, but we're also going to be worse instead of better because there is a whole bunch of realities.
Balance.
There's like 7 billion different realities, and there's probably 5 billion different groups or a billion different groups, and there's thousands of different countries, and there's all these different ethnic groups, and there's all these different religions, different. And unless all of a sudden some alien or God comes along and goes, zap, now you're all going to love people's differences.
Yeah.
We don't all love people's differences. We're afraid of people's differences.
But difference is okay, and that's what goes along with opinion, right? We all have different opinions.
Right.
But talking about less fortunate, I was able to get Isabel a laptop. Because
beautiful. There's some groups out there that are helping people, and we're trying to encourage that. And I know you got a story about that.
I reached out to these people called StepUpForKids.ca, and they provide a refurbished with a 1-year warranty laptops to young families and people who are on disability and stuff. Nice. So now that she's in grade 4, she qualified for the program, and she's going to get a laptop tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah. Step Up for Kids.
Yeah, I'll put the link. If you
know somebody that could really use some help along those lines, then that's a good place to go.
Yeah, and also they take donations too, so that you can help other people get their laptops too. So you either help out financially, or if you know somebody who needs a laptop and they're living on a disability or on welfare or something, or working poor. It can even be working poor, right? You just contact those people. I put the link up in the comments there.
Have you noticed an increase in people in public being friendly with each other?
Oh yeah,
I have too.
Oh yeah, and there's even news items about it.
I haven't seen that, but I have been thinking about it lately.
Doing it on purpose.
Well, I think everybody's doing it on purpose.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lady in Vancouver here there's a guy walking down the street and he was drinking coffee, and she said, "What's in your cup?" And he said, "Coffee." Well, she said, "That's a great start for the morning. Just talk to strangers." Right now that we got,
if they want to be talked to.
Yeah, now that we don't have masks on as much here in British Columbia. In other provinces, it could be different. But
there's a split. There's still maybe 25 or 30% of the people walking around outside in public with masks on. Mm-hmm. Of course, all the inside venues, everybody has to wear a mask, and almost everybody is inside those places. I did see a guy yesterday who wasn't. But I think that this attempt to divide us and separate us has brought a desire for us to connect and be kind to each other that wasn't really there before. I think maybe a couple of years ago, or prior to last March, or a year ago March, people were pretty in their own little space and not too concerned or sensitive about other people as much as you would like to see in society. And I think maybe that's changed, so that'd be possible.
A friend of mine, Jesse Kerr, her dad just got pronounced with COVID.
Right.
So they just found out today.
Still going on out there. I trust everybody is doing what they can to keep themselves safe. Energy. Like that's the thing to do. Social distance, that's my thing. And I don't like that. I hate that term. Physical distance. Social distance. I hate that.
I know.
That was a terrible one.
I hated the new reality or the new normal.
The new normal.
The new normal. Yeah. What's somebody's definition of normal? Your definition of normal is different than my definition of normal. So how can we even have normal?
Their definition of the new normal is any interactions with people is done at a distance or with plexiglass in between.
Yeah.
Along with a bunch of other stuff like that, and that's no way to live.
No, it's not.
During the pandemic,
people are getting out there and being
physically distanced.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling good, don't go out in public. Easy. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. I never want to talk about that. There's things I'll talk about that are controversial. I'll talk about religion anytime anybody wants to, although I don't like hurting people's feelings, and I don't like
Yeah.
You know, my opinion means that some people are believing something that isn't true, and it's never nice to tell somebody what they're believing isn't true. But unless it's the real truth,
with all things,
and you want to help them, you know. If religion's working for you, and you're a really good, happy person because you believe that stuff, then that's all great. Don't change.
Yeah, don't change.
Don't change.
We're not here to
But if you're angry at people, if you hate people that aren't of the same religion, if you're scared of stuff because of your religion, many of these things that religion brings aren't positive at all.
There's probably good religion out there, as there is people that misuse religion and take your monies and stuff and control you.
I read that thing on a few shows ago.
Yeah.
About what God would really want.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
So anyway, go back and see that show if you want to see. I concur with everything that was written in that particular article that I read out, or I wouldn't have read it out. So go back and see what that is all. But that's my opinion on that. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. Just wanting to always tell the truth.
Yeah.
That's been my whole life. I don't know why.
But you haven't had kids, right? Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah, I got kids.
Yeah.
It was my own upbringing, though.
But we didn't always tell the truth to the kids. We have to lie sometimes, as parents.
I don't know about that.
Oh, come on, to get them to do something?
I don't know about that.
Oh, come on.
I do not have a history of lying to my kids or anybody else. There are times when you do not tell the truth.
Yeah.
There are times when you...
Yeah. Yes. That's what I'm saying.
Distract.
Yes, distract.
Politicians are great at that. You ask him a question, now he's answering some other question.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you don't want... But I am not a big fan of lying.
No.
There is a time and a place for it where people will be helped and protected by it. And there's no absolutes in life. All generalizations are false, including this one. There's absolutely no absolutes, almost. But certainly in that one... there could be, to save your life, to save somebody else's life.
Yeah.
I'll lie to a cop.
Yeah.
I'll lie to a cop in a heartbeat. Not a problem at all. Not trying to educate him about whether or not I've ingested magical vapors that are going to get me put in handcuffs and taken away.
I'll tell Isabel 10 more minutes in the park and only actually give her 5 sometimes. That's what I meant by the
Even when you know you're only going to give her 5 and you tell her 10?
Well, it depends on how tired I am. Or
forgive your dad. He knows not what he does.
But then,
he's doing it for your benefit in the end.
I'm fair too. I might say 15 and give her 20 too. Okay? So
and you know ahead of time.
I'm fair.
You know ahead of time that you're fudging it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
I'm being honest, right? I'm being honest. It works.
You're not doing it to hurt anybody.
Nope.
You're probably not hurting anybody.
No, I'm not.
Then,
it's just
besides, you're on your own anyway.
It's parental control, and you just know that the situation.
God, in the end, will judge you for what you do.
I'm going to give you 5 less minutes in heaven because you did that to your daughter.
And if God was a good God,
yeah, Bruce, you know it, Glenn.
You would be patted on the back by God for doing what you thought was right. For your daughter that you're in charge of. That's what you got to do, is what you think is right.
Yes.
Moment by moment.
And being a parent means that you are going to make mistakes. You are not going to be right every time. There's no way. We try to make the best decisions, and sometimes our kids are. You're
going for perfection. You're going to be sadly let down.
Being a parent is about learning that you're not
Especially
perfect.
if you haven't been a parent before. But even if you have been a parent 6 times, and anybody who's had 7 kids will tell you that 7th kid is a unique individual, not the same as raising the others.
No.
And there's going to be mistakes made as you figure out what's going on with your kids, and figure out what's going on with yourself. That's the great thing for me about having kids, is that I got to go back through my own childhood, basically, and in them experiencing things that I went through. I got to correct the record with myself.
Yes.
Because as a kid, you're overly, everything's much bigger than it is, much more terrifying than what it is. It's not terrific, it's terrifying. Terrific is a word made up of terrifying and horrific. And somehow it ends up being terrific.
Terrific.
The English language is so cool. So cool.
Oh, wow.
Man, we could talk about lots of things.
Yeah.
And we probably should, because Jerry hasn't walked through the door yet.
We got to keep going.
He's 6 minutes late.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
He said he'd be here. So
he must hit traffic. He is coming from farther away now.
He was on National Geographic. They were shooting last night, weren't they?
Yeah, but he told me at 3 o'clock he'd be here.
You're right, he should be.
That's fine.
No,
last week he pushed it right till the very last second. I had pretty much packed up. I was going to walk out the door, and then he came. So.
Oh, yeah.
He lives a very busy life.
If you want to go crazy, we could go out and back in. But
I we don't need to go crazy.
Ooh, go crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can ask the people what they want to see.
They're just going to say
even
gin.
crazier.
They're just going to say gin.
We're all
So
stoned.
we're into Jerry's segment here, so probably we should talk a little bit about Jerry.
Yeah.
Last week, Jerry had a telephone
WebEx.
video meeting with the judge and with his lawyers for final submissions of his constitutional challenge over the lack of access to cannabis in storefronts to medical users of cannabis. That's a case that's been dragging on for a very long time. Jerry was a dispensary owner in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, a little town just off the highway in between Regina and Brandon, Manitoba. Tiny little place where they did have a couple of crack houses and did have a serious problem with that type of issues going on there, like they do in so many places, not just in Saskatchewan, but right across this country. Jerry himself was a person that had gone down that path in his life and had lived a tough life, pulled himself out of that, got himself sober, and wanted to help people, wanted to give back, wanted to move back home and help his community out, and his community was in trouble. He ended up opening a dispensary there 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago now. Wow, it's been going on for such a long time. And for 4.5 years, Jerry ran his dispensary. Strict medical protocols being involved, following the guidelines set out by Philippe Lucas and Riel Kapler at the time, wanting to needing to be as above board, transparent, and on target for what the government would probably want with respect to a medical dispensary. And for 4.5 years, he ran that dispensary and had over 1,000 members of that dispensary, all of them with doctors on board confirming their diagnosis. And so legalization comes. Trudeau talks about legalization before getting elected, says that he would like to see the gray area of cannabis dispensaries be as transparent as possible to be transferred into the mainstream marketplace. Jerry does all of that. But still, legalization, when Trudeau brought it in, meant that all these medical dispensaries had to close down. And Jerry gets a letter saying cease and desist. That's not being transferred into the mainstream marketplace. That's being put in a position where you're going to have to tell 1,000 people that are suffering and using what only you can provide to them without great difficulty. Most of the people using Jerry's dispensary in remote Saskatchewan there wouldn't have had many other options for medical cannabis if Jerry wasn't there. And he was going to have to tell those people, sorry, but I can't continue to help you with your life-saving medicine because the government's told me that I have to stop, and if I don't stop, it's going to be illegal what I'm doing here. You know what ridiculous that is? Number one, ridiculous because no human being with an ounce of ethics and heart is going to tell 1,000 sick people that they've been helping that they're not going to be able to help them anymore because the government said so. Nobody's going to do that. What sane, ethical human being could possibly do that? And secondly, most importantly, nothing would be new about being illegal. He'd been illegal for all the time he was open with that dispensary. So now the government says, hey, shut down or you're going to be illegal? Give me a break. Cruel and unusual to expect that to happen in the first place, and an absolute disgusting disgrace that they went ahead and enforced it and arrested Jerry and shut him down, shut him out, seized his building, seized his other buildings, seized his cars, seized his bank accounts. And now, for over 4.5 years since that happened, he's been fighting to get that record set straight. It took that long to get into court, over 40 appearances before judges at our expense, to get to a day when he finally got to put in an application, or affidavit rather, because of COVID, not actually getting a day in court with supporters there in the stands, not actually getting to look at a judge other than through a TV screen. But he got a day where he could do that, and I think it felt all right to get that off his chest, and I thought that affidavit was very well presented. I can't really tell you anything about it because there's a publication ban, because heaven forbid that the public really understand what's going on here. Had that day in court several months ago. There was final arguments in a two-part session. One of them happened just in between our shows, and the next one is happening in 2 days. Hopefully that's the end of it. Hopefully that's the end of submissions, and the judge can take the submissions and without too much time, make what is an obvious decision poor people and sick people need to have a storefront that they can walk into and get easy, low barrier access to cannabis for their health and safety. Simple, easy, shouldn't be a hard decision. We'll see what happens. Anyway, Jerry's here, and we'll talk to him. Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that. All right. Have as much fun as you can.
All warmed up for you, sir.
Jerry Martin in the house. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, and you?
That's good. I'm pretty good. Still feisty and not happy, and trying to protect our access to our beautiful little friends here. Been torn apart by governments for years, fighting to get able to have a plant. Oh man. So, how are you feeling about the case? What can you talk about?
Postponed again.
What do you mean? It's not going to be Thursday?
No, it's Thursday.
It is Thursday.
But it was supposed to be finished Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. It was supposed to be done last week.
But I think it's going in November, from what I heard over that.
Well, no, my understanding, if you're talking about what actually happened in what was said during that case, she was convinced that it was going to take your lawyer, or the lawyer for you three, Mr. Bird, it was going to take him a few weeks to get that description of something to do with the business side of things to her, because she didn't quite understand that.
Yeah.
So she thought he was going to take a couple of weeks to do that. Then he was going to have to submit it to the prosecutor. He was going to then take a week or two to look at it. Then it would get back to her. Then she'd have to find a date when she was available. She said, I'll look and see when I'm available after November 15th. I think that's when you messaged me and said, oh my God, this is going to go on forever. And then what happened was they took that break, which was supposed to be 5 minutes, but it was more like 20 minutes. And then when they came back, the prosecutor said, I think my friend and I have worked it out that we can get this done much quicker than that.
Well, they were going to work it out between themselves.
And so, and get her a copy within a few days.
Right, but they still got to go over all that.
But she's going to have done that by Thursday. So as far as I understand it, she's going to be able to have that information and hear the final stuff on Thursday. And then she said
I hope not.
that
it's on a phone.
Well, the submissions that she's going to hear, and then she gets a bunch in writing, right? She gets a bunch
I'm hoping they just throw it all out because he fucked up.
Well, that'd be good. I've expected that all the time. I'm surprised it's gone this far.
Well, he supposed to cross-examine all that stuff in the cross-examination, said he didn't. So that can all get thrown at the end when everybody calls.
Well, he admitted, or I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this, but the prosecutor admitted on at least 2 occasions that he had not really done his due diligence on that. He said one time he got overly excited about thinking that there was some flaw in your case, and he jumped on it without really properly looking into it. It was strange to see him, like I say, on at least 2 occasions. I think it might have been as many as 4, where he kind of apologized for not. And he said, I guess I didn't cross-examine these people, and maybe I should have. But he wasn't meaning maybe he should have by law, and now they'll throw it out because he didn't. He just meant maybe he should have, as a prosecutor, doing his job, trying to build a case against you, because maybe that would have helped to build the case against you.
And I think the law, Paul brought up that it especially had to be done at that particular time. So
he can't do it again. He has no other opportunity. He dropped the ball.
So
I don't think we can talk about this. I don't know what we can talk about. I don't want to do something that would jeopardize your side of things at all. I'm not sure why they would make that the publication ban, but whatever. The public really needs to know about this. This is an extremely important case. It was not talked about at all during the election by any of the parties ever. I did get a response from the NDP when I asked them, because they contacted me and said, do we have your support? And I said, well, what's your position on low barrier access to cannabis for sick people and poor people? Are they going to have a storefront to go into? And she didn't give me an answer, said that here's the number for the candidate in the riding, and you can ask her, the opinion on that. And I didn't. I figured, I put it in their court. They can contact me if they want. She did get back to me and said, basically, we do care about sick people and poor people. We would try to make sure that they had better access, and we are in favor of medical dispensaries. So that was good to hear. And they certainly won the West.
Yeah, of course they didn't win the rest.
The West doesn't get to win the rest.
No.
You can win the West.
It's always Quebec and Ontario.
we got nothing compared to them.
Yeah.
What do we got? I don't know, 70-something seats compared to...
So what do we got, another 4 years?
200 seats?
They say 18
Well, we
months.
could have four more years.
18 months.
Or we could have a year plus. I mean, it's up to him and what happens, right? He probably gets... I can't say. I wouldn't dare to predict the future. The future right now is so up in the air and volatile as to how things are going to go. So I really
saw
don't
his
know.
little news conference there where he had it at his private event.
I
there,
didn't
and
get to see it.
He was quite happy. He says, "We won
Sure he is.
by buying the media."
Is that what he said?
Yeah, we gave them $600 million. He said, "Oh yeah."
Well, I don't know. Most of the mainstream media that I heard leading up to and during the election was not very kind to him.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah,
not
I
hear-
don't know how he won with all that. Yeah.
Well, he won because in the middle of a pandemic, you really don't want to change government. He won because the Conservatives typically scare a lot of Canadians, although they didn't really do that this time around. They were pretty good about moving to the middle. Their candidates really didn't join in on debates towards the end there of the campaign, and that's a smart move because they can always say shit that gets them in trouble. It was a snap, quick election. So, but what was the question?
I think it's crooked.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's that Trudeau was in trouble. The Liberals are in trouble. They've got a lot of things that are going on that are still being investigated.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think that they understood that if they waited another year before calling an election, they likely wouldn't win that election. There's a lot of people unhappy with Trudeau for sure. Mm-hmm. Not enough of the electorate unhappy with him to vote him out, apparently, but only 38% of Canadians voted for the Liberals. 68 or 62% didn't vote, or was it 32 and 68? 32 and 68. 32% of Canadians, not the ones that voted, just overall Canadians, voted for what is our Prime Minister, and 68% didn't vote for
I
him.
didn't. I'm not doing it again. I quit with the voting.
I do it, but
Yeah.
it's a really
mess.
stupid
That's
excuse.
what
I just feel responsible for putting the guy in the office that is crooked.
I didn't vote for
Because
him.
they're all crooked. It doesn't matter which one.
I had the luxury of not voting for him.
Yeah.
If it was a really, really tight riding that I was in and the Conservatives were looking like they might take it, then probably I would have really held my nose and gone in there and voted for them. I can't vote for any of them. They're criminals. I want a better option.
I voted once for NDP.
I want protection for our public servants from corporations. That's what I want. I want it so that they can't be bought. That they can't.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
No, I know.
Yeah.
We don't got a system for the people, by the people. We got a system for the corporations, by the corporations. And by corporations, I just mean the financial elite. And I don't mean all corporations.
Yeah.
But I call them corporations now because that's kind of what they've evolved into, these kings and queens, the huge, wealthy people. They all are corporations now because they get all the benefits of a corporation by being corporate.
Sure.
All the tax benefits.
Well, if you make over 50 grand anyways, you want a corporation.
Yeah, and lots of people do that, and I'm not talking about them.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the ones that have billions of dollars that use that money to influence our system, that get our governments to do things that are completely against what is right and with respect to our rights and shit like that. It's a real travesty that it's gotten this far, but at the same time, we've always been the pawns of the elite. We did not have what we have now with the ability to have a show and bash them and talk about it like this. I mean, maybe in Canada we have, since Canada took over from the Indigenous people. We've had in Canada the ability to speak, and that's really good. But we're one place in a whole world of places where it's really difficult to speak. And here too, you can speak out. We can do what we're doing here, but we're putting ourselves in danger by doing it. I've been fortunate. Nobody thinks I'm serious, so that's good. They don't take me serious, so I get to say what I want to say, and I've been saying it for 20-some years, and really I haven't had repercussions. The cops don't target me like they do other people, and I totally understand how in small communities, if you're outspoken about drug prohibition or cannabis laws, you get targeted. Yeah. You get pulled over all the time. It's a real thing. They ruin people's lives, and they haven't done that with me. Touch wood, don't quite know why. I think the powers that be are allowing me to continue because I'm on a mission, and this mission is important. And I watch miracles happen around me on a regular basis, things that happen that continue to further what we're doing here. And for some reason, I don't want to jinx it, but we've been pretty good I've been pretty good in not being targeted. In fact, I think I don't know if it's true, but it seems like I must be on a list of some sort, because when I get pulled over, right away the cops talk to me about weed. Like, you have weed in your vehicle, even if there's no smell, haven't smoked nothing in an ashtray or nothing. And they're always really good to me.
Yeah.
They don't want to hassle me. They don't want me to give them feedback.
Sure, there's a few notes on your name there.
I think there's a few notes.
Don't bother this
Don't
guy.
talk to this guy if you want to sleep for the next week, right?
Yeah.
I take every opportunity to try to explain to these officers of the law, these peace officer, public servants, people we pay who are there to protect us, that these laws against cannabis are hurting our kids, they're hurting our society, they're costing us a ton of money for no good reason, they're protecting gangs, they're doing all this bad stuff, and I will tell them this every chance I get. So
Maybe you should run for city council.
I'm too old now. I'm too old to do these things. And I've got my own little mission on the way, and city council I think is corrupted as well, but you're right, that's the best place to go if you're going to want to try to serve the people. You don't get to do it in federal politics at all.
No, you got to follow the rules.
You got to follow your party rules.
Yeah.
And you're not in the justice ministry probably, and you're not in the PMO, and so that's where policy is made, and that's where they're not going to go along with you if you want to stop all these rich friends of theirs making a ton of money off of cannabis prohibition. So it's really bad. But we're on the cusp of good things. It's been over a year since we applied to Health Canada. They haven't said no to us. If they could have said no, they would have said no.
Yeah.
So they're going to say yes. They have to say yes. We've laid out such a fantastic case of what we're doing is very, very helpful to a situation where people are dying. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to give us permission to do that. They're going to have to give you permission too. I'm sorry to tell you, but if you lose, which I don't think you're going to, because I've watched the case, I've listened to it, I've read the briefs, I haven't read all of the affidavits because of course I can't.
Right.
But I was privy to those parts of the affidavits that were cross-examined, and I think you guys have such a fantastic case. I just love what the lawyers have done, Paul Lewin and Mr. Berg.
Yeah, no, they did a really good job.
Fantastic.
Last time. Yeah.
So, I think you win. But if you don't win, you're going to have to appeal, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to appeal. Sorry to tell you that. I know you don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And the other sad news is if they lose, then they might appeal too. But they might not.
Yeah.
They might not. There's a history of them not appealing these things. That's good. And it's not the conservatives in government, in office, which could have been for the decision, right?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So, there is that for sure. I think that would have really swayed the judge's ability to rule, wouldn't it? It shouldn't. It shouldn't be political.
Well, the law's the law at the time, right? So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's true. And how a judge interprets the law, I do believe they take into account the ruling government. They say that this is the government the people have elected. This must be the will of the people, and and I think they have judges historically, I believe, have ruled that
sense.
way. So I do think it's political to a large degree how judges interpret the law, depending on which party's in power. So I think we're better with the Liberals than we would be with the Conservatives. So I think we're close to something, Jerry.
Yeah, it's getting there anyways.
I think so. And then there's the other side of it, which you and I always talk about, because it is the other side of it. It is this other parallel, very important journey that we're on. It's not just about cannabis. It's about the right for people to ingest psychoactive substances, and why any government would have the ability to prohibit that. That's a battle that's going on, not just with cannabis. Cannabis is the big one and has been for a long time, but right now there's another one that may even be bigger because we've legalized cannabis, right? And it's being legalized in all but 9 states now to some degree.
Yeah.
And other places around the world are doing similar things. The other one is psilocybin and the other psychoactive plant medicines that are out there. They have made huge strides in the last little while. You've been a big part of that. You're right in the center of putting together studies that will be submitted to government and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a big one too. Is people deserve to have access to these substances because one, they're not inherently dangerous to the degree that many of the other legal things in our society are inherently dangerous.
Right.
And two, even if they were dangerous, prohibiting them only increases the allure, increases the demand, guarantees with that demand an underground supply that, depending on the level of enforcement, dictates the level of danger involved in that.
Right. Psychedelics, I believe, are like on the lowest of the drug scale.
They don't arrest a lot of people for psychedelics, although there was recently a mushroom.
I just read about that today.
Yeah, they had a little fire.
The
carbon monoxide detector went off.
Yeah.
The firemen came, and I guess it's their duty.
Yeah.
They had to inform the cops that it looked like there was some activity going on there, and so then the cops came not with a search warrant, because they came later with the search warrant.
When there's a crime, you don't need a search warrant for a crime.
Well, they had to get the search warrant before they could go in, but they secured the building, and that's what they did.
Pictures of the mushrooms
and so now they got a bunch of mushrooms. Yeah. Oh my God! All you got to go is go in any horse field, you'll find a bunch of mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah, going down for some.
Can you imagine? Adela Wisdom in the States is going through hell because there was some hemp plants, just some feral fucking hemp plants growing on property that she was controlling in Missouri. And now she's being dragged through the court and threatened with jail time and, going through what you're going through. You don't know her, I guess, and see her posts, eh? Yeah, she's just going through hell because of all of this. And it's about a couple of hemp plants that were growing wild on her property. Well, depending on the hemp. If it's hemp that's coming from actual modern-day hemp fields, there's no THC in it. If it's wild feral cannabis from some other source, then there's probably a balance with some THC in there, because they selectively bred the THC out of the cannabis that they grow for hemp. Don't think that there's other varieties of cannabis that don't have proper levels of THC. The government did that. The U.S. government did that. And so anyway, she's going through that as well. But can you imagine that they make psilocybin illegal, and everybody's got it growing in their yard come springtime and in the fall?
Yeah, everybody can grow it anytime.
Your
Smell
kids
your
out
mushrooms.
there, your kids out there playing in the yard, and they decide to pick some mushrooms for the game that they're playing. And here well, the neighbors report it first of all because they're going to get a reward. And now in come the authorities, and they're going to take your child away from you because you allowed your child access to psilocybin, which you had access to, and everybody had.
You must have planted them there.
Oh my God, it's just so insane. These are plants. We are products of the natural environment of this world. We are as the plants. They are us. We are all family here. You can't take your family away from you. So you can't ever see these members of your family here because they're dangerous, Well, if they're really dangerous, lock them up, I guess. But even then you get to go visit them. It's just so stupid, Jerry.
Claim it on your income tax.
Every time my whole life for 20-some years has been just reamed full of stupidity all the time. Constantly, in the early days especially, trying to wrap my brain around prohibiting cannabis. Like when I first started going to the rallies, I knew that I wasn't a criminal because I smoked weed since I was 15 years old. I know what a criminal is. I took law in school. I had, interests in law. And I knew that there's no crime in having some dried flowers right from nature that you decide to light on fire and consume. And so, but I didn't know much more about it. I don't know where you are in your life, if you understand, the ins and outs of why cannabis was made illegal, who it benefits, and what the reasons are. But for me at that time, I didn't really know much about the reasons for it. I mean, I had heard the reefer madness. We all hear that, and I knew that couldn't be right, because I was using cannabis, and we all knew that, it was stupid. Because before you start using cannabis, for me, maybe for you too, you're a kid, teenager, and you've heard about it. Maybe some of your friends have tried it, but you're a little worried going in because of what you've heard about it, and then you use it, and you just laugh a lot, and you realize after that's over, well, holy shit, this stuff's illegal? This is what all
I
the
can't
fuss
say
is
I was
about?
worried at all. So remember vividly, H.G. Stafford.
I don't know if I was worried, but there just was this thing. I was doing something that was illegal, something that, you know, there'd been, and there must be something if it's illegal. I guess that's what I thought, is that there must be something to it. And then I'm talking about the first time when I used it. You know, I was brought up with religious parents in a strict household. They bought into all of that stuff. I started smoking cigarettes at 10, and I was, you know, not on their side of things until a little later on in my teenage years when I had a evangelical, whatever you call that.
Oh yeah, I went through the evangelical.
Yeah, I did do that for, I guess, grade 7. I was walking around in the halls of school with a Bible in my hands.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. Didn't last too long.
That's okay. My mom had Jesus knocking at the United Nations building on the side of the van. Both sides, muraled. Jesus loves you on the back. Dude, I ended up in the hospital for months over that.
Wow.
But 13 kids, I think, in grade 5 beat the living shit out of me for
Wow.
that. Yeah.
So you had religious parents too.
Oh, very.
So,
Super.
so I mean, I mentioned before you got here that you had a little bit of a troubled past, and you came out of that and wanted to give back. So, like, I was smoking cigarettes at 10 years old, partly to do with my parents being so strictly religious.
That time too for me.
Yeah, and then I was drinking like a fish by the time I was 15.
Me too.
Getting really drunk.
Alcoholic 15.
I started smoking weed at 16, and where was I? 15. I guess I was 15. I started drinking alcohol at 14. I started smoking weed at 15, and
I went straight to cocaine.
other drugs. I never shot a needle in my arm. I don't like needles, and I never did that.
Yeah.
I smoked some heroin, just once at Cultus Lake. Doing a camping trip thing there, and had vivid hallucinations. I did a fair amount of LSD until I guess at 18 I had an LSD experience I didn't like at all, and I didn't do it after that, and I haven't done it since then.
No, you're long for you.
And I might, but
It's awesome, man. I don't know why I waited 25 years either.
we talked about there not being dangers to the psychedelics. There are some dangers. It's not overdosing to death. That typically doesn't happen. But if you're
lithium's a big thing.
if you're in the wrong frame of mind, it can be a life-changing negative experience.
Yeah,
for sure.
it can kill you with lithium too.
Yeah, I think that's true for sure. And probably it can kill you other things too if you really took too much.
Well,
but I don't know of anybody
with
like
certain medications.
Yeah, you get your.
They got to be fairly high doses. So does the medication.
It mucks with your hormones.
I don't know.
You know, there are things that can happen, and certainly being in the wrong headspace. And I come from a religious background, so I had one particular acid trip where religion was a big part of it, and I saw the devil. I saw lots of things, and
I became the devil.
Scared the crap out of me. And
5-MeO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Yeah, and I mean,
fucking next level.
Yeah, and I've had some psychedelic experiences that were intense, where I was hoping it would be over soon. Many times wondering if it would ever be over. Like, is this now how I'm going to be forever?
Yeah.
You know, this seems pretty real.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so anyway, that all happened. But yeah,
I got lost once on a couple of hits of acid in Whitby, Ontario by Oshawa. And I don't know, and I just had to go like a block, man, but I think I could find my way back. And of course, this lady cop comes pulling up, and I'm like in the bushes. Looking around which way do I go? So she drives me all the way to Oshawa. It's a fair, drive. And then I take her to like 3 or 4 different places. I couldn't remember where I lived. Alex says, I'm taking you to jail if you don't get that address. So I still didn't make it home. I just got her to drop me off with my buddies and gone. I was like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, I was so drunk sometimes I ended up on neighbors' lawns and waking up in the morning and not knowing where I was. And lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
We had a similar start by the sound of it, you and I. What saved me from ending up going way down that, I'm telling you, I had friends that ended up in gangs, lots of them. Friends that ended up on hard drugs, seriously. There's a friend of mine that I've reconnected with now, just through Facebook. He found me and has kind of been following what I'm doing here. And he wrote me the other day, he said, Neil, you're the one that's standing out amongst all of those friends of ours from back in the day there. Most of them didn't turn out very good, and that could have been me so easy. I was right there doing all of that. And then my cousin, Keith Magnuson, made the Chicago Blackhawks. And then after a year or so, he sent me through his brother equipment so that I could play, because my dad wasn't going to get me what I needed to play. I started earning my own money so I could pay for my admission into the hockey league. And I started playing hockey, and that's what really changed my life. A whole new set of friends, busy all the time, up early for practices. Quickly made the rep team, which meant that we were going around to many different other communities and playing those other rep teams. So a lot of travel. It was very exciting and really, really changed my life. Still an alcohol culture, growing up for sure. But it really, I slowed right down on any of that other stuff. Stopped hanging with those guys that were really getting into trouble. Saw a different way, and my focus became much more on hockey, for sure. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess we should probably wrap it up. A little bit about your delving into the Freedom of Thought Project, I like to call it that. Mindtech.ca.
Yeah, microdelics.ca.
And what would they find there?
Microdelics, you can find different psychedelic analogs, very similar to the real thing, just they're not in the CDSA here. So
that's these things up here?
Purchase, yeah. These up here.
So you can purchase that stuff, and then you can test them and see how they work for you, and then do you accept feedback?
I do. I have ratings on there, and Trustpilot as well.
Right?
Yeah.
And then at some point, some people could really get involved in case studies and in
yeah, that'll be through Mindtech, through the biopharmaceutical company. So
right on.
Yeah.
So check into all of that.
At the end of the week,
this is the leading edge of where we're at right now with the fight for cannabis legalization. It's with low barrier access, so that poor people and sick people can get really good cannabis at really good prices that will help them in their lives. That's just something that needs to happen because it can be produced cheaply. There will always be connoisseur cannabis produced by super intelligent growers that use all the best equipment. And I was reading a thing by actually one of the experts in your case was talking about that, about how people produce cannabis. You can produce it outdoors very, very cheaply, like under $5 for a pound outdoor cannabis. But that's not true for indoor cannabis at all, especially if you're paying for your hydro. If you're not paying for your hydro, you could get a bill down the road that might shock you, but or some sort of a prison sentence or something like that as well. But if you're paying for hydro, if you're using all the high-end fertilizers and you've got all the best equipment, it's expensive to produce good quality cannabis. There's always going to be connoisseur cannabis. People are always going to have that. But you can produce really good quality, potent cannabis without a lot of money as well. And so that needs to be available for people. You can make extracts off of that cannabis that you can grow fairly cheaply that are pure, good quality, high quality extracts. All of that can be delivered to people reasonably.
Seed in the ground, Mother Nature.
Seed in the ground, Mother Nature. I haven't done anything but add a bit of water, and I haven't even done much of that. So this needs to happen, and then that's at the cutting edge. The other cutting edge of our movement for freedom, it's really about freedom, is the psychedelics, is these other category of psychoactive plants that have been prohibited by governments and criminalized by governments. Like we talked about just a raid the other day, more law enforcement dollars wasted to go in and take away what are medicinal mushrooms for people that will help them with PTSD, help them with anxiety, pain, depression, obesity. Mushrooms are good for so many different things, and yet here we are wasting our tax dollars, criminalizing people and preventing access by raids and what have you. So that needs to happen. We need to have, and it goes to the core of freedom itself. Because what are they trying to prohibit with these psychoactive substances is about your frame of mind, is about how you're feeling, what you're thinking about. That's what they're interfering with. And for people that have issues, these days, who doesn't have issues? I mean, holy smokes, most people, I commented earlier in the show, there's a lot of people out there that aren't all that bright. It ain't their fault. Life is tough. Life is hard. Life is full of trauma and hypocrisy and confusion, and it's really hard. And I understand why the average person is traumatized and not all that bright. because of just how tough it is to be that bright. We live in a very confusing, very difficult world here. So people need the freedom. As adults, I get it. Get the government out of the kids' brains. Leave the kids alone. Under 15, nobody's right. Maybe under 16, nobody's right to interfere with that child and their development but the parents. The parents need to approve everything that goes on with that child. But from 15, 16 on, these are human beings that are now establishing their own rights and their own adulthoodness, and they need to be given the respect to make choices for themselves and to think for themselves. And the proper information needs to be out there about how psychoactive plants can be extremely helpful. They can be life-changingly helpful for people with seriously debilitating conditions of depression and anxiety and pain and all of the rest of these things. So for the government to prohibit them, use the criminal law against them, tell all these lies about them, because that's what happens as soon as you prohibit something. Now there's doctors and scientists and professionals coming forward to back you up and, tell your truth, because they're getting paid to do that. And there's lots of lies that get told when the government decides that this is right and this is wrong, and they're going to back up what they're saying. And all of this has been wrong, costly, destructive, and outrageous for so long. We need to sort this out. We need to get it done quickly. Thanks to Jerry and you and other people and all the rest of us that are doing what we can to say, no, you can't tell me I can't take a mushroom when I'm not feeling good. Mushroom growing in my front yard, for God's sake. My neighbor took them. It made him feel good. It helped him. Who are you? That's the big question. For me, who are you? Who are you there standing there telling me I can't have this mushroom? I can't use this plant. I can't think a certain way. I can't change my thoughts the way I want to. Who are you? Who are these people? We know in the past they used to be messengers of the king, armed with shields and swords and the power of the king to cut your fucking head off if you eat your asparagus, because the king don't like asparagus. We understand that's how it was back then. We were all just, property of kings. We're not property of anybody. That wasn't right then, and it isn't right now. We're not property of anybody. They do not own us. They do not get to make laws and enforce laws with our own money against us trying to help ourselves. That's what's going on here. This is the most ludicrous thing in the world. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I quit my job and I have to do this every day, because it's the most ludicrous thing I ever experienced in my life, and people are being harmed every day. They're dying and being harmed by this, and it's just the most stupidest thing. These plants help people. Governments are supposed to help people. Governments are not supposed to help corporate fucking bigwig rich assholes keep the plants away from us so that they can sell us their toxic pharmaceuticals and make money off of us. This is outrageous. We need to stop this tomorrow, yesterday. Anyway, sorry, but damn it, I want to retire. I'm getting old. I want to retire. I'm not going to retire. Get it straight, Health Canada and whoever else is really pulling the strings here. I ain't going away. I'm not retiring until we get low barrier access to cannabis and other psychoactive plants. Simple as that. And I'm not alone. Take me out. There's about 10,000 other people that I know that have the same heart that I do, and they'll step into my shoes and we'll continue the fight. We are not ever giving up, because this is what's the most important thing of all, is how do you feel? How do you deal with the shit in your life, with the traumas that we've had? How do you deal with that? That's the biggest thing in life. If life was all pain-free and easy, then we'd have other big things to deal with. We'd have, how do you get to the top of the mountain? Other problems that we'd be able to solve. But until that happens, the biggest problem we have to solve is feeling good. We can't be sick, because then you can't climb a mountain. Then you can't do anything that's fun. We want to live good lives. We want to have fun. We got one shot at experiencing life. We want to make the best of it. And what we got to do first is unwind all that shit that got us all wound up in childhood, got us all mixed up in childhood, and figure that out. And then we got to feel good. We got to deal with our health issues, because we all get health issues. As you live your life, you get health issues. And we need to be able to deal with that in ways that are reasonable, and not have people that we're paying to call themselves servants to tell us that we can't use these things that people have been using for tens of thousands of years. We have to use these things that were developed and invented and concocted, by an elite few that they control all this. This is not the role of our public servants. This is not what we should be voting into office, is people that are going to maintain this abominable situation. But we don't have a choice unless you do what Glenn did. And if we all did what Glenn did, what John West has been saying we should do for all the years I've known him, which is vote none of the above. But of course, not everybody's going to do that. The politicians will buy enough votes that wouldn't carry, and then we're going to end up with one of those groups of bastards anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Thanks, Jerry. I really appreciate you coming in, my friend.
Sure.
And all that you're doing. And we'll see what happens next week as we've had another chapter in the whole case.
Another week.
That's it. And then we'll have even more to talk about. And maybe they'll lift that
Well, it's like
publication
2
ban.
days, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2 days. But I'm back in a week.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We won't be back with our friends.
Also, CannaMatch for the Apple users, it'll be a month or 2 months before we can get it on there. So remember,
CannaMatch.ca.
Yep,
There's an app that you can use, but if you're on an Apple device, you won't be able to use it for a couple months yet. They're still working on it.
Because the people who create our page have to update their page so that Apple will accept that page. It's all crazy, but at least we're in Galaxy, we've got an Android.
Time is a funny thing, Glenn.
Yes,
It
yes,
just
I
keeps
just wanted to
marching
mention
on,
that,
and you look forward to something coming up, and then pretty soon it's already happened, and now it's way back there. So, things I found things move really quickly. Maybe I'm just old, or maybe I'm having too much fun.
Maybe
That's what I was told. Time flies if you're having fun.
Yep.
And as much as I'm upset about some things, I'm still having fun. I believe in that. That's the number one most important thing in life. Whatever else you're going to do, make sure that you manage to fit some fun in there, because that's how you be healthy. So the next part of our program is the update for the CSP. The CSP, for anybody who doesn't know, is the Cannabis Substitution Program. It started out as the Cannabis Substitution Project 4.5 years ago, giving out care packs of high-dose edibles to people that would line up and get them for free here on the downtown east side, right outside the headquarters of the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, right close to Main and Hastings. And so we did that for a long time. It was a couple of years that we did it before finally the city of Vancouver recognized, because of some studies that had been released, especially from Dr. M.J. Malloy, who'd been studying our group and what we were doing, and others as well, that the safety and the efficacy of cannabis, what we were doing in handing out high-dose edibles, was profound and definitely working, definitely saving lives. So Professor Zachary Walsh also was on board with that, and so the city was influenced by all of this. They passed unanimously a motion put forward to support low barrier access to cannabis for the opioid crisis, to remove the restriction of the East Hastings corridor, the downtown corridor. There had been a restriction on cannabis dispensing in that neighborhood. When asked about that, they said it was because, Dr. Daly of Coastal Health said before council that there was plenty of cannabis available on the downtown east side Hastings corridor, that they didn't need to have a dispensary there. Can you imagine that? That Coastal Health would say that the cannabis available through the underground marketplace was adequate for the poor people on the downtown east side. I couldn't believe it when I heard that come out of her mouth, for sure, because there's a lot of inherent harms, especially to women, especially on the downtown east side, in trying to access cannabis through dealers and going into people's basement suites and down back alleys and things like that. So I can't imagine why she would say that, but they did. So anyway, that all happened. The city passed that motion. We went and met with the city, myself, Jody Emery, a representative of the Green Cross, Howard from Van Du, and we came to an understanding. It was a very good meeting, and she understood that we were going to continue our program of handing out cannabis to people for free, that we would then find a storefront as quickly as we could and move into that, and with the city's support, we would continue our project from a storefront on a daily basis instead of just twice a week, which is what we had been doing. So we found a storefront. That's the space that I'm broadcasting from right now. We set up our store, opened up, and then before any city councilors or city staff could come to see what we were doing and support us like they said they would, they needed to come and assess how we were doing things, and we would maybe tweak it if there was things we could do better, of course. But instead of that, we got a representative of city licensing showed up within a couple weeks of being here. And that person was like, "Oh no, you don't have a license from the city, you can't be doing what you're doing." And right away, the next day, there was a letter issued to our landlord and to ourselves telling us to stop what we were doing, threatening our landlord that he had to evict us. And so he didn't want to evict us. He loved what we were doing here. He dragged it out as long as he felt that he could with the advice of his lawyer, and then took us to court. Well, before that happened, a month and a half before that happened, we applied to Health Canada with the help of John Conroy. Jack Lloyd was involved with us in the early days, and then John Conroy came along, and they put together this incredible application for Health Canada, an airtight case for what we're doing here, causing zero harm other than the odd person having to understand where their limits are by eating too much cannabis edibles once, probably not twice. And other than that, great benefit to this community, hundreds of people that were part of our project and being helped. And after we moved into the store, we changed it from a project to a program. As I said, we went 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, with a couple hundred people, now closer to 300 people, that we help with high-dose edibles. Every 4 days they get 420 milligrams for free. So licensing having threatened our landlord dragging it out as best he could, we put in this application to Health Canada that was very comprehensive. I must say that John spent an incredible amount of time and effort on that application, making it so that we would quickly get approval on it, because it was crucial that we get approval so that we don't get evicted. We also sent along with that to the Federal Health Minister, Patty Haydu, an application for an emergency temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act to allow us to continue what we were doing until Health Canada could figure out licenses. Patty Haydu's office contacted us back the very next day saying that they had received that application for that emergency temporary exemption, that they would do their best to process it in a timely fashion. And we're still not in possession of it. It's been over a year, a month and a half after applying for that and submitting that application. We were evicted by a judge who only gave us 7 days to get out of the store that we were in. Certainly not enough time to find another location and operate our program. In fact, that judge said that we were showing up in his court with unclean hands, because what we were doing was providing a controlled substance illegally to people, even though it was saving their lives. And he had possession of our application to Health Canada. He also said he had no confidence that we would be able to get our license within 6 months, which is what we had asked for. We just asked for an adjournment of the eviction proceedings until we could get our licenses in place. And he had no confidence that we could get that done in 6 months. And I thought that was ludicrous. No way would it take 6 months for Health Canada to give us permission to do what we're doing inside the store, because really people are dying, and we're going to be hampered and limited in our ability to help people if they don't support us. But that's exactly what's happened. We've now been 10 and a half months, more than that, in an RV, a cramped little RV. We've gone through, I think it was cold. I know some people in other parts of the country and the world don't think it's cold here in Vancouver, but it was quite cold for mostly our clients that had to come to the side of the RV, unprotected from the weather during rain and wind and cold, and we did have heat. I might not be able to claim that we had cold that compares to other places, but we had heat that was hotter than any other place on the planet here in Vancouver for a time. We had a whole town spontaneously burned to a crisp in British Columbia this summer. An amazing amount of forest fires and all the rest of it. It was very, very hot here. And you can fend off cold, and we did a pretty good job for my staff and my volunteers. We had a propane heater that we used inside the RV that kept us relatively warm, even though through the real cold snaps. But it's much, much more difficult to fend off heat. Yet my brave staff every day showed up and spent their day inside that sweltering RV. We don't have electricity in there. We did buy some fans, and we did have some small, fairly powerful fans going, but all you're doing is moving around hot air. And so, we've been through a lot out there, and it's really limited our ability to help people. And all of this is for what reason? Like, seriously, the Federal Health Minister and Health Canada are not waiting to give us permission because they're concerned that there's some harm that we might cause by providing high-dose edibles to people. They already had 3.5 years before we applied to assess what we'd been doing, and we'd already been assessed by university professors and doctors that had showed that what we were doing was definitely safe and definitely something of great value. So their deliberations are nothing at all to do with whether or not what we're doing is safe for people. It isn't even about whether it's effective for people, because we have so many people that will testify and have testified, and that's part of our application. We have a 90-minute tape of clips of people that have been using our program about how effective it's been for them. So it's not about whether or not cannabis is effective for people in offsetting the use of opioids and the high-dose edibles getting them through withdrawal. That's established. It's not about whether it's harmful for people, because other than that initial experience where you find your tolerance level, where you have a bit of an uncomfortable experience, or maybe a lot of an uncomfortable experience, but you don't do that again. Other than that, there's no harms involved. So why is it a year later and we still don't have permission? Why have they contacted us on several occasions to say it's complicated and please just be patient, and we're working hard on it every day? That's what Benoit Seguin, the head of Health Canada Licensing and Exemptions, Special Licensing and Exemptions Department, has had to say to us. That's his most recent email, was it's complicated. Please be patient. We're working every day on your application. Well, what are they working on? Our application is only complicated because it's interfering with the government's artificially high prices that they want to charge at their dispensaries. That's all. That's it. There's nothing else. It's not about safety. Part of our application is a very comprehensive section where we talk about our ability to test everything that we put out. We had a great relationship, still have a good relationship, with the Green Cross of Canada, who has the up-to-date testing equipment and a certified technician to run that equipment. We test everything ourselves that comes through here. It's not about whether our products are safe or not. This is about whether or not they're going to allow a store that people can go into and buy cannabis at reasonable prices and get high concentrates and high dose edibles and medical grade cannabis at reasonable prices. That's their only concern. Prices. Prices, prices, prices. That's their three concerns. All about cost. How can they justify maintaining these ridiculously high prices for their inferior, overpackaged, overhandled cannabis when the reality is what we're demonstrating? That it isn't complicated to get cannabis to people. There's lots of people that can produce good cannabis. We're definitely capable of assessing, testing, and making sure that the cannabis that we provide is good for people. Dory Dempster proved that with the medicinal cannabis dispensary. She scopes everything. Carol Gwilt from Weeds as well. They scope everything. And we will too, if need be. In the meantime, we're quite satisfied with our own testing methods here. If the government isn't, well, we'll up them a bit for them. But there's no harm coming out of what we're doing. There's nobody getting any cannabis that's harming them in any way at all, period. As I said, other than maybe high-dose edibles, taken too much, an uncomfortable experience. Other than that, we're talking about a world, this part of the world here, where not only is there alcohol, which out and out kills hundreds of people in British Columbia every year, but nobody talks about that. Not to mention all the deaths associated with alcohol, and all the violence associated with alcohol, and all the illness, cancer, psoriasis, and disease that's associated with alcohol, the addiction that's a big part of alcohol. We have alcohol available easily all around us here. Actually promoted, advertised, glorified. There's commercial tobacco for sale all over the place here. Corner stores, grocery stores, gas stations, right next to schools. Commercial tobacco. Now, if anything was going to have a stigma attached to it, it should be commercial tobacco. Several million people die globally every 12 months from the consumption of that. It's laden with poisons, and they admit it and they know it. It doesn't help hardly anybody, but there it is, widely available. Not only do we have alcohol and tobacco in this neighborhood, you can't walk a block without somebody trying to sell you some meth or heroin, down they call it, or a bunch of other stuff. So here we are stuck in a tug of war with our public servants about whether or not there should be easy access to cannabis for people, for health reasons, in a world that's full of all these other things that are easily available for ill health reasons, to make you sick, to poison you, easily available. White sugar, all over the place. Causes type 2 diabetes. That causes loss of limbs, loss of sight, etc., etc. So, anyway, again, I get to go over all these different crazy things that are going on in the world to do with cannabis. Thank you very much for being there and listening to me. We're going to go outside and see what's going on with the crew and see what's going on in Vancouver. It was a lovely day in Vancouver again today after quite a bit of a rainy period. We've gotten several more days of sunshine here, so it's been really nice. We're here. I don't know if you want to give a quick glimpse on these rooms. There's a lot going on. Still a lot going on. A lot of people sitting around, doing other drugs and having problems. And this is the RV that we set up. We purchased it the night that we got evicted from the store, and we never missed a beat. We've been 8 hours a day, 6 days a week ever since. And we're not alone. And I always like to take this opportunity to talk about, well, here's an old friend that we haven't seen for a long time. I don't know if he's going to come on camera, but I haven't seen him for a long time. Anyway, live show, folks. There's other programs like this. Good to see you, Butch. I take it you were held against your will for a while?
Yes.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Our men came at me. I had to go in there.
You had to go. I don't blame you for doing that.
There were two guns against none. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad you're still smiling.
Well, you know what I say. I've never been a can that could ever hold this man.
There you go.
Later, Neil.
Later, Butch. We've been talking about you. We've gotten to know a lot of people in this neighborhood for sure. But our project was duplicated within 6 months in Victoria. One of the our board members from Vandu took it to Victoria. Solid embraced it as an organization, and also another advocacy group for people that are oppressed by bad laws. And they've been doing their cannabis substitution program over there ever since. Chris Backer in Halifax, a friend of mine that I got to know on the Freedom Tour, he decided he wanted to do similar things there, and he's moving close to 2 years now that he's been providing care packs to hundreds of people once a week in Halifax at an old boarded up school, and done a fabulous job of educating people. Yesterday, in fact, he did his weekly handout. It was election day. There was a bunch of people lined up across the street at a voting station, and he got to educate a lot of them about what he was doing there and what our program is doing for people. And so he's doing an awesome job there. One of these days, hopefully Chris will also have a storefront, and we're hoping to lead that way for him. Mary McCarty was our head baker here in Vancouver for quite a while. She had to go back home to London, Ontario for family matters, and she decided she had to have this program going on there. So it's been 5 months now. She's now moving into her 6th month of providing care packs to people. There was 200 people there today. She has had a couple visits from police there, but there was none today. She was left on her own to do her job, and she said it was a very successful day. And so thanks so much to Mary and to Chris, to the people in Victoria. Jason Lafashi is also doing a program in Sudbury, Ontario, and there's more. And all the people that are trying to address this epidemic with cannabis, I thank you so much, and we thank you so much for furthering what we're doing here. All of it together will combine to be such a force that they will have to give us all permission to do what we're doing. And the more the merrier for sure on that. Thank you to those people for doing that, and thank you so much to anybody that's helping them, because these programs all run strictly by donation and by volunteers. And so the donations make it work. To donate to a project that's handing out hundreds of care packs with several different items per pack on a weekly basis is really hard to do. And it only happens because of good people who donate and people who will donate on a regular basis as well. So if you're donating to those projects or to our project, thank you so very much. You are doing a fabulous thing in helping further this cause, which is such an important cause. And for anybody that would like to get involved, please contact Chris Backer, the East Coast Halifax Substitution Program, Cannabis Substitution Program, or Mary McCartney in London, Ontario, with the Green Angel Therapeutics and the Cannabis Substitution Program, or us here. Contact myself, Neil Magnuson, or Jen Nelson. And speaking of Jen Nelson, how are you doing there, Jennifer Nelson? Okay. Doing very well. What, sneaking up on me over there, are y'all? So if anybody doesn't know Jen has been our manager here since the beginning, and actually been heavily involved in care packs for, well, 4 years, or 4.5 anyway, more than that. Because you were in the lineup in the beginning, and then worked your way into rolling joints, and then seized the opportunity one day to put care packs together, and then never let go of that. And she was so good at it that we never would try to take it away from her anyway. It wasn't that easy to assess the boxes that I would bring from all the wonderful donators, twice a week. I'd arrive at Van Du with these boxes, and the volunteers would take them in, and she'd have a look at what we had, and then decide how much to put in each care pack and how many care packs to make up and stuff, and how big the lineup was. And so often was just bang on with how she packaged stuff. So then we moved into the store, and you've been running the sales window ever since. This is where we offer low barrier access. This is which is so important. The Cannabis Substitution Program is very important for people that are struggling with addiction to opioids and wanting to get off of them, and willing to be part of a program to have them provided for free. But many people are struggling with addiction to these substances that would like to have access, especially to high dose edibles, that aren't willing to offer up their, hey, look at me, I'm on hard drugs and I'd like to quit.
Or they just can't get into the program because it's full.
Well, that too. So for those people, we need to have easy access, and they need to have a place where they can come and purchase cannabis reasonably priced, because many of those people don't have a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or not. It should be reasonably priced, shouldn't it? Why would it be anything but reasonably priced? That's what doesn't get me. I mean, what I don't get is if the government's involved, if they're going to do anything, what they should do is make sure that things are reasonably priced, not priced out of reach for anybody that's, an average Canadian, or anybody that's sick and needing to use on a daily basis. That's just ludicrous.
Well, that's what's funny. It's like pharmaceuticals, you can get so much coverage for it. I can
true.
get everything for free at the pharmacy.
And
But
cannabis.
For cannabis, no. Here, let's charge you up the ass for it.
Yeah.
Make it so you can't afford it. There you go.
And so it doesn't make any sense. It just makes money. It makes a lot of money for people. And now we're in the way. So let's go to the back door. So the back door, this is where the CSP operates. There's a secret knock. Don't tell anybody. And then this happens.
Is that the secret knock?
That's the secret knock. That goes back to the herb school days.
Nice.
Yeah. So, actually you respond to any knock, as long as they knock.
As long as they knock on my door.
Not everybody knows the secret.
No. As long as they knock on the door, I'll come over and answer it.
So when they knock on the door, what happens?
They get $420. 420 milligrams of edibles if it's their day.
If it's their day.
Yeah, I've had 20 people today.
So you check when they come in, they tell you what their number is, and then you check that number to make sure that they haven't been here for 4 days. And if they haven't been here for 4 days, then they get another 420 milligrams.
Yeah, every 4 days. If they haven't been here for 4 days, they can have it. Once they get it, if they get it today, they have to come back tomorrow. Start tomorrow. 4 days start.
And so then they get to choose. What do they get to choose?
There's lots of stuff in today. We have a variety of stuff. See, that's what a tray looks like. That's what a regular tray would look like.
So they want one of these. How much is that?
That's 5 milligrams each. There's 20 inside. That's 100 milligrams.
100 milligrams. How much is this thing?
100. That's from Robert. That's 150
So
milligrams.
this one here has 150 milligrams. These ones here have 100 milligrams, and they're divided up into fives. So if a person only wants, a little bump, a 5 milligram bump, then they can do it that way.
Exactly.
And then, so what else we got?
I got some cubes here at 50 milligrams.
That's from Green Wilderness.
Yes, and I got some cubes here that I put together to make 100 milligrams, 50 each.
Nice.
Then I got some of these Gorilla Ganjas.
Right. They've been great donators and supporters of ours for so long.
Yeah.
And not just 4 flavors, but 4 different varieties.
We
Like,
have right here. We have this one right here. Black cherry is 40 indica and 40 CBD, so it's 1-to-1, half and half.
right? And then you have the
Then
one
I
that's
have
full CBD.
I have a full CBD because people like to use CBD for pain, right? For
Right.
pain, anxiety, depression, you know.
And this one was 50-50 indica. And so this one's 50-50 sativa. Is that correct?
40 milligrams of sativa, 40 milligrams
Yeah.
of CBD. So the whole.
I say 50-50, but
Yeah.
I just mean half and half. You know,
1 to 1,
to one, yeah.
Then we have one for the people that are in lots of pain or haven't had trouble sleeping. We have the full indica,
Yeah.
80 milligrams. It's pretty heavy.
Works really good. We get a lot of great reports on
if you take it
that.
an hour before you go to bed, you'll sleep right through the night.
Yeah.
I have some cookies that Joe brought today. Joe Pepper brought
yeah.
some 100 milligram cookies.
Nice.
Then I have some cookies from Robert, 100 milligrams.
Nice.
Then I have a donation here.
Got Carly there on
That's
that.
Carly right here. This is 250 milligrams of gummies in this package.
Right. And there's a bunch of them in there, so it would be
Yeah.
divided up into
Sure it would.
15
Then I
or
have some
something like
brownies.
that.
I have some brownies right here. Some real excellent brownies.
That's from Roberta.
Yes, it is.
And then we have cookies that we give out from Michael the Cookie Monster. We don't turn anybody away. If they're not part of the program, or even if it's not their day, they can go to the side window and they'll get either a cookie or a cupcake. Michael the Cookie Monster, he makes these. He's given us over 60,000
Very healthy
of
cookies.
these cookies over the years.
Very healthy.
He's been a supporter of the CSP for over 4 years, and they're 30 milligrams. But more than that, they contain no nuts and a whole bunch of really, really healthy stuff, seeds and things for people. And that's very important. Nutrition is very important. And before I get back to you, we also have those cupcakes that John Murray gives us to hand out, and he makes for us. And those are 100 milligrams each. So that's a pretty good dose for somebody that's looking for some relief.
Got some, give 'em
And
some
so yeah, we got one here.
Glenn just
These are the
brought some.
cupcakes from.
Glenn just brought these today.
Right. And the other thing is that you were just going to show us there is not everybody can have sugar, and so for people that are diabetic or people that don't want sugar,
These are the 101
okay, so
milligram muffins that we give
I guess
out.
we have to correct our last few moments there. We shouldn't really have to.
John Murray.
These are John Murray's muffins. Those other ones were more from Carly.
And a lot of people have really liked the way they are balanced with 100 milligrams. Sure gives them.
Yeah,
what
but
they
we
need.
warn everybody, and if,
Yeah.
and if we don't know them especially, we make sure they understand. And if
Yeah.
they haven't used cannabis edibles before, we really spend some time
Yeah,
with them
we
and
do.
make sure they understand not to take too much, what can happen if they do, to start low, go slow. That's very important. One of our biggest problems is people eat too much right off the bat and then they don't like
Yeah, I
it.
let them
But for
know.
those people who are diabetic or don't want the sugar, we also have caps.
have
And
some-
that's very
I
important.
have some 50 milligram keep caps that we made here. I
That's
have-
a
I have
wonderful
some-
donation
I
from a
have
friend
some-
of ours
I
just
have
up
people
up
on the
in
CSP
BC.
that really love pills, and it's really changed their life to pills, and all they take is pills. I have some of these ones over here, these 5 milligram ones, for the people who like to start low, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty good.
And I think
Very
those
good.
came from Weeds, Glass, and Gifts, maybe
And
not.
then I
I'm not
have
sure.
some 50 milligram gel caps right there.
Yeah,
Some very nice. These are very good. People say they work great.
yeah.
And I have some of this 1-to-1. This is 1-to-1. That's half THC. There's two.
That's a tincture there.
Yeah.
And then that's honey there.
That's honey.
Yeah.
And a tincture that came here. Yeah.
Very good.
1-to-1. 50-50.
And we also have topical, don't we? We have some of Mary's salve. Where's Mary's salve? Here we go.
Right here.
This is what we did with your salve. Mary sent us a bunch of salve from London. She's supporting the Vancouver CSP.
Homemade. Very nice. Does the job very well.
So
We've had some
thank you
good-
so
we've had
much to
great
Mary.
results.
Such a fabulous woman.
Mary's an amazing woman. She does a great job. Thanks, Mary. We really appreciate all you've done.
And we miss you.
Excellent. We miss you very much.
It's been 5 months. It feels like it's 5 years.
But Mary's a determined
Yeah.
woman. When she wants to do something, she'll do it. So
She was telling me the other day, it feels like she just left here the other day. I said, it feels like you've been gone for a long time, Mary.
And she's doing CSP. She's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Excellent job, Mary.
And you're doing a good job too, Andrew.
I do my best.
Appreciate
That's
what
why
you do. It's been over 4 years
I'm
for
here
you.
for the people. Yeah.
Head of volunteers
yeah.
at Van Du and now head of the CSP.
I like what I'm doing.
Here. I don't blame you.
I've been where they've been, so I know what it's like. It's a hard life out there, so you got to slow down.
So you're giving back to people that are in positions that you used to be
I'm
in.
even giving back to people I seen back then when I was there.
Right.
Right. I'm still giving back to a lot of people. Right. Every day.
Well,
I've done
great
it.
job, sir.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
We're going
Thanks,
in the
guys.
other end.
Thanks, guys.
mayhem.
Sorry, Jared,
We're back to lights. After having gone through the summer and the long days, we're back to short days, so we got lights going on in here. One of them just fell. Hi, George.
Hey, Neil.
How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad.
Want to say hi to the people at home?
Hi, people at home.
George has been with us also for about 4 years. He started out with the Holy Rollers at Vandu, and he's been working for us ever since. So, a bunch of great people here doing this. Any stories of the day?
Not really, it's just a simple, easy day.
We have, every day there's things that we witness that are just crazy.
We haven't had any problems.
There was someone yesterday or the day before, I guess, and he was over there up against the chain link fence. And I guess there's a little patch of dirt somewhere between the slabs of concrete. He had a little tool of some sort. And he worked so hard on that for hours and hours, digging the dirt out of that little space. He ended up with quite a large pile of it that he had put on a big plastic raincoat or something that he had.
No problem, brother.
And then he went away, and then he came back with a friend, and they hauled off the dirt. So I don't know if maybe he was planting plants, and that's what he wanted dirt for, or what was going on there. But typically that sort of thing is a reaction to meth, or some of the other drugs that people do down here. They do a lot of work, and as Andrew said, it is a lot of work being a hard drug addict down here. They have to find the drugs, they have to find ways to get the drugs, and then they have to live with the consequences of the drugs. And many times that means doing crazy dances or flopping around on the ground, or on and on it goes. It is really, really sad to see. It's been very hard for me to witness this for all the years that I've been down here. We started with the Herb School 1 block over in 2004. And then we were there for 3.5 years. I worked there for 22.5 months before I started doing the Freedom Tours across Canada. And then I only had a partial relationship with the Herb School. But 3.5 years at Vandu, 15 months now right here. You see a lot of struggling people. You see a lot of people that, you know that they're somebody's sons and daughters. You know that they have family that would probably care about them, and if they don't, they should. It's really difficult that this is going on down here, but it's a place where they need help, and cannabis can help them. And since we opened the Herb School in 2004, I've been witnessing the help that cannabis can bring people. And so we've done our best to flood this neighborhood with cannabis over these years, and we have seen a huge difference. We have hundreds of people that are part of our program that come and visit us and are doing much, much better in their lives. Most of the people in our program report that they don't use any other drugs other than cannabis. And that's the success we're looking for. We're here to help people because they need help. We're here to help people because we know how to help people. We have the skills now because we've been 4.5 years on the front lines dealing with this issue of the epidemic of overdose deaths. So we're experienced in that. We have compassion for that. As Andrew told you, he's giving back to people that are in the situation that he was once in. Jen has been helping people out down here for a very long time because it's very close to her heart, because she struggles, and she struggled due to injuries and pharmaceutical drugs that she was on, and depression and numerous other things that led to her being down here on the downtown east side and having to do something about it. We're all people that just can't walk away, right? That's what it is that we know we can help, we know there's people that need help, and we just can't walk away. But we're dealing with a society and with governments who don't want to help these people, who certainly don't want these people helped through the use of cannabis because of their affiliations with rich people who want to control cannabis, or prohibitionists for whatever reasons that they are. And these people never come here. Those people that are making decisions about us, that are deciding whether or not we should have an exemption from the Cannabis Act to be able to give cannabis to people and help save their lives, they never come here. We've never even had one of the city councilors here. Nobody's come here. Dr. Malloy came here. Other harm reduction specialists, they're all here, and they all know what we're doing. But the people that are really making the decisions, that are determining whether or not we can properly help people or not, have never been here. They don't come. They don't want to know. I don't know if they even watched the video that we sent them. I don't even know how much they've read the application, because as I read the application, with the understanding that I have, it shouldn't take any semi-educated person more than a couple of days to go through that application and say right away, let's give these people what they need to allow them to continue what they're doing. This is crucial, and this is really helping. If they came here, they would see that, and they would know that, and then they would do that. But they don't. They stay in their offices. They stay way away from the downtown east side of Vancouver. And who knows what they do all day. But they're not doing what they should be doing in making decisions about people's lives that are in desperate need of their decisions. They have a duty bestowed on them by us, paid for by us, and that duty is to assess what we're doing and approve it if they deem it to be safe and effective. And I'm telling you, anybody looking at that application with a high school education within a couple of days would have tears in their eyes, would probably be coming down here to see us, and would absolutely bring with them a piece of paper with a signature on it that says, you can give these people a bank account, you can rent to them, they are legitimate, we support them. That's all it should take. For it to be now over a year since we've applied for that is outrageous. It's I can't find the right adjectives to describe it, and I continue to try. But we'll keep bringing this information to you until we get that application approved and until we set up our store, and then we'll see what we do. Maybe I will retire, but not until we get that. In the meantime, you can keep track of all of this on our Pot TV show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. There's other Pot TV shows that you can entertain and educate you as well. Carly Marley has, and BC Bud Gal, have the 420 Lifestyle on Mondays starting at 4 o'clock. BC Bud Gal, I believe, is still there on Fridays doing... Thursday, that's right, because Johnny B is Friday. I didn't do this last week. Skip 1 week and I get rusty at it, eh? So 10 a.m. in the morning, Morning Glory with BC Bud Gal. She'll entertain you if nothing else, and Johnny B will educate you if nothing else, because he's got all the right information about how to grow for yourself. One of the most important things that you can do for yourself and for us as a community of good people trying to find freedom is grow weed. Grow as much as you can. Grow more than you need for yourself, because then there's more for other people who can't grow. Not everybody can grow, but continue to overgrow the government. Continue to not stand for first prohibition, which is still going on strong as ever with illegal cannabis all over the place and enforcement units and more money for enforcement and increased penalties. That's all still going on. And don't stand for high prices and the sick people and the poor people being left out of the equation. We all, as always, need to stand up for our brothers and sisters that aren't as fortunate as us, and we should not accept cannabis only in the form of sales through a government outlet that won't allow daily users, sick people, poor people to get proper cannabis. We can't stand for that. On behalf of the sick and the poor, we all need to boycott those stores and demand that they allow low barrier access. So that's what we can do. And you can do that by calling the federal health minister. Maybe it'll be somebody besides Patty Haydu now. We'll wait and see if there's a new federal health minister. Benoit Seguin, Special Licenses and Exemption Division of Health Canada. Send him an email. You have to go through the main switchboard at Health Canada to get any type of a phone number for those people, but it can be done. I recommend it. There's politicians and media people and other people all over the place that they all should be informed properly about the efficacy and safety of cannabis high-dose edibles to address the epidemic of deaths that are going on. If everybody in positions of influence understood that, I'm confident that we would get movement and we would get permission. So do what you can. Figure out what is somebody you can contact. Everybody's got their own take on things, and that's really important, that each individual has their own unique way of looking at something, their own ideas about who they could influence and how they could influence them, or how they could educate people, or how they can get the message out. And if we all just bring to the table all of our own ideas, and we all do these things and become the change we want to see, then we will see the change that we want to see. But if we all just accept it, if we think, oh, well, at least there's a store we can walk into. Yeah, it's still the same price or higher than it used to be when it was illegal, but at least I can go and buy it. Then we're not going to get what we deserve, and we're not going to get the poor people and the sick people looked after, because they don't have a big enough voice. We need everybody to be part of this. We need to all stand up for the less fortunate. Let's help make the world a better place. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, work hard to make the world better, because that's where the best juice in life comes from. And while you're doing it, most importantly, always have as much fun as you can.